Hey everyone, here we are back at the BC Law Course after day 2 of the hearings about the cases about churches. We had the second day of hearings. Andre, you want to walk us through what happened today, who spoke and what happened?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I just wanted to comment on how balmy it is out here in Vancouver. I'm just loving the warm temperatures here. I flew in from Ottawa where there's 4 feet of snow on the ground. Just down behind us, I can see the daffodils are in bloom here in downtown Vancouver. So it's just amazing being here, one of the perks of the job. So I'm thankful for that. This morning, so court kicked off again with the lawyers for the churches making arguments on the substance of the law, arguing about fundamental freedoms. Section 2A, freedom of religion. Section 2C, the right or the freedom, the fundamental freedom of peaceful assembly. Talking both about a man named Mr. Baudouin, who had actually done a political protest, an assembly, a peaceful assembly outdoors, a political protest where he had gotten tickets for that. So that's part of the challenge, actually. And then also talking about the ability for churches to worship indoors carefully, safely, to assemble for that, and you know, what fundamental freedoms are at stake here and how have they been violated, and then is it justified? Is it reasonable in the circumstances? What's been interesting is the lawyers for the churches, they started to make a bit of what we call the Section 15 argument. So Section 15 of the Charter talks about our right to be treated equally in the law, that we're not supposed to be discriminated against by the law or by the government. But that argument didn't seem to get very far with the Chief Justice, and so what was really amazing, providential even, was that after the lunch break, it was ARPA's turn to make an argument. And so ARPA's the force of our argument was actually on that section, Section 15. And I think it really resonated with the Chief Justice. And I say that for 2 reasons. One was ARPA did spend quite a bit of time in a written argument on this aspect about Section 15 and the right to equal treatment under the law. And we really laid it out in the written argument that when you look at other gatherings of in indoors that are comparable in risk to the gathering for corporate worship, things like in gyms, in restaurants, for classrooms or business meetings. So business meetings are allowed to happen in person, indoors, with up to 50 people, and a bunch of other sort of settings. And we said, well, if the public health officer thinks that the risk in those settings is acceptable in the circumstances, then we should be able to say, well then we should be allowing worship services at the same level of risk. At a base minimum, right? Yeah. I mean, actually under Section 2 of the Charter, the fundamental freedom of religion, we'd actually say, there's a special protection that worship services should benefit from above and beyond that. But at a base minimum, we shouldn't be discriminated against compared to other gatherings. So as Mr. Trotter, the lawyer working with us as ARPA, as he was making those arguments, I thought the Chief Justice seemed quite receptive to those arguments. And the second reason I think he was receptive was because of the questions then that the Chief Justice put to the lawyers for the government. So after ARPA spoke, then the lawyers for the government got up and started to speak. And there's a couple of times where the Chief Justice did put these scenarios to the government to say, look, if is actually one point that you might appreciate, Levi, where the Chief Justice actually said to the lawyer for the government, said, look, if I'm allowed to walk into a bar and sit down and have a drink and watch the Canucks game, and he made a great quip about that.
It's not the sorry Canucks. They did win actually yesterday.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they got a good chuckle out of the courtroom anyway. But he said, look, if I'm allowed to do that, walk into a bar, sit in a room full of all kinds of strangers that I've never met before, and drink my drink and watch a sordid excuse of a hockey game featuring the Canucks, then why couldn't I do the same sort of thing but in a religious setting? And so I'm glad to see, and I'm thankful to see that these kinds of questions are on the judge's mind, and I'm going to pray that in fact those questions continue to be asked from the government. I think they have a duty to answer those questions. So
yeah, especially when a worship service is far better than any Canucks game or Leafs game or any other game like that. So hopefully they will really consider that freedom of religion, freedom of assembly parts of this. And then so tomorrow is going to be taken up largely again by the government arguing its case, and also we might get the lawyers representing the churches also to respond to this. So that's on the docket for tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be a full day tomorrow. There's actually some question about whether or not the case will wrap up tomorrow, or if they're going to need an extra day or half day or so. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm guessing you'll report on that tomorrow, Levi. So
indeed.
Well, yeah, we'll have to see. So.
Yep. So that's here from day 2 here at the BC Law Course. We'll keep you posted tomorrow as well.
All right.
Until then, take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.